and this space at this time. We can't run away from use of technology. We also can't run away from, there's everything around us. I mean, if you're talking, I'm sure almost all of you are on Facebook, or maybe you go to, those are technology. Look at, let me give an example. I'll give a real life scenario. Last year, we even experienced a bit of it. I don't know if it happened in Abuja, but we had the same thing again this time around, this December in Lagos, where there was scarcity of cash. Last year, we had in fact, there was cash crunch was real. If you did not know how to do transfer, or you were that type of person that said, me, I'm not a technology person, no, I'm not going to do transfer, you will be broke. You will not be able to buy some things because there was no money. There was no cash. And then we had companies like OPay who knew how to, it was so interesting that financial institutions like the OPay took over from the banks. That's how they were able to leverage. Why? Technology. There were a lot of people that didn't have an OPay account before December. But by December, virtually everybody was opening an OPay account. Virtually everybody was going for Money Point account. Why? Technology made the difference. And the truth is, whether we like it or not, that is the space we're in now. We can't run away from it. I'll give you a little bit about myself. I told you, I said, I got to a point in my life where I was like, if this happens now, what will happen? There were educators that left the education space when COVID broke out. Why? They could not evolve. They didn't know how to use technology. There were schools that closed down when COVID broke out. But at the same time, there were schools that made money. There were educators that became millionaires and are still millionaires today. Because when COVID broke out, it was an opportunity for them. And they went online and they started making money. In fact, I always tell people that for me, COVID was a blessing because it pushed me online. Until today, I have clients in the UK. I have clients in US that I teach. The only country that I am still struggling with clients from is Canada because of time difference, and I work. If I stop working today full time, I will dive into the Canada market very well, and I'll leverage on it. And I'll tell you something, go online and check how much is paid per hour for online remote lesson in the UK. I'll give that as an assignment for you. Go and find out. And then the truth is, when you want to dive online, what do you have? I'm still working in a school. I'm still, as I'm talking to you, I'm in my office. I'm in school. I'm at work. And I'm doing this. And like I said, I was telling Mr. Abba, I have a meeting. Once I finish, I have another training at between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. today. I have online classes. I'm teaching students. I'm making my money. Because I keep telling people, we all say Nigeria is difficult, but Nigeria is difficult. There are people building house. Why? So as educators, how can we use what we have to make the life we want for ourselves? So at the end of the day, you're going to write an exam for Microsoft, and the exam comes in different formats. You will have about 30 to 40 questions to answer in 60 minutes. There'll be multiple choice, best answer, drag and drop, extended matching. So there are different patterns and formats for the question.
Sorry, hold on a little while. Let me switch over to another network. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So which one is yours? Which one? This one. Okay. What's the password? Put the password. Next question, check. Okay, can we continue, please? Yeah.
Okay, just give me a minute. I just want to drop a message for someone because this might take longer than I thought. Hello, sir.
Yeah. What happened? We can't hear you again. No? Okay, okay. It's like you are muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Okay, and the camera is off. You can put it on. So I was saying that you're going to be writing an exam, and the exam is about 30 to 40 questions and with different formats. So look at the first one, which is collaboration. And then we'll look at what collaboration is and how the format would be in the classroom. And I'll give you a few examples with a few things using your various things you teach. So collaboration, big idea. The first one is working together. The second one is shared responsibility. The third one is substantive decision. And the fourth one is interdependent work. So when we say collaboration in the classroom, there are different stages. And then you get to the peak of it when you have the interdependent work. So I want to give an example. As you are now, I can say sit in groups of 4 and I give you an activity to do. That is just the first stage of work of collaboration, which is called working together. So working together means when the activity requires them to work in pairs or groups. So in pairs, it's maybe 2 people together, you're picking them partner, pick a partner, want to do an activity. That's working in pairs. Or you can say 3 people in a group, 4, 5, want to do an activity, and then you give them something. Maybe you ask them to discuss an issue. For example, now, we're looking at let's say we're looking at the current situation in Nigeria, or right now, I don't know if it's happening in Abuja, but we've been having showers of rains on different days in Nigeria, in Lagos. And you can decide that, okay, you can tell your children, okay, I want you to work in groups and have a discussion. What do you think? This year, we're beginning to have showers of rain early. Do you think it will make any difference in maybe in the agricultural sector or anything compared to last year? That's discussing an issue. There's no child in Nigeria that does not know that fuel price has increased. Even the child in primary school know that fuel price has increased. You can put them in group and say, the fuel price has increased. Do you think this is going to have any effect on the cost of living as a people in Nigeria? That's an issue you're bringing about in discussion. Or you can even tell them to solve a problem. So for example, you put them in groups and say, think about a challenge you have in your environment and what you think you can do to solve it. They're discussing, they're coming up, or even ask them to create a product. I know that even in the primary school, we do this eggshell, where you do home economics teacher, help me out. Eggshell, where they will do eggshell, because my daughter just did one and she's been disturbing me to buy egg. People should help us parents. Egg is expensive. Oh. Now I have to be buying egg plenty and all the eggshells, she's keeping it. So they're creating a product. It's a scrubbing powder, but it's a product. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So you could put them now. Putting them in group is just the first stage, because the truth is they can be in group and yet not do anything. They can be in group and yet nothing is really work. So putting them in group does not mean that you have achieved collaboration 100%. You have just achieved 25% of collaboration. And then we say collaboration does not necessarily need to restrict to your class. For example, we have Cultural Day coming up, and we want the Igbo students to present something about the Igbo tribe. It does not have to be restricted to the student in your class. So you can say primary 3 and primary 5 students should work together, come up with an Igbo dance, come up with an Igbo play, or the Yoruba students in primary 4 and primary 6 come together, come up with a play, come up with a drama. That is. So it must not just be that it is in their class alone. 2, you can use technology. So for example, you're teaching on tourist attractions in Nigeria, and you want to talk about the Olumo Rock, or you want to talk about something in the West. You could have it online. Have them, you could probably even have a friend who works in somewhere like Osun State, and what you want to talk about has to do with Osun State. So you do like a Microsoft Teams now, and your students will work with that person to get all the information and all the facts they need to come up with their presentation. I'll give you an example. Last year, July, I had to go to, I went to South Africa for a program with a group of teenagers from Nigeria. And that reminds me, Mr. Albert. Yeah. I'll push something to you right away. Please share it with them and share it with the other schools. Please, for secondary school only. It's strictly for secondary school. If they have exceptionally brilliant science students, please, they should help them apply. I don't know when it's closing. I'll find out the closing. I'll find out the closing dates. I don't want to forget. So just give me a minute. Let me push it to Mr. Albert now on WhatsApp. It's a form. The document is attached and the form is also attached. Mr. Albert, please share with the other school that has a secondary school too. The last school I trained. Mr. Albert, did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So sorry, I'm just trying to get it. Okay. So now we went on that training. The team was Waste to Wealth. And I had to work with, I was assigned a team of students. There were 4 students from different countries. So my team had students from Rwanda, he had a student from Egypt, he had 1 student from Nigeria and 1 student from Ghana. And the 4 of them had to work together. So the team was Waste to Wealth, and they had to come up with a type of waste they wanted to find solution to. So we're busy brainstorming. And then they told me that they wanted to work on converting how they can generate wealth from sewage waste. And that sewage waste, they were going to turn it to biogas and do a lot of things. So I looked at it, I was like, this thing they're asking me to do. I remembered that I have a friend in Lagos here. That's the business he does. That's what he's into. So you know what I did? I set up a Zoom meeting. I was in South Africa. I set up a Zoom meeting. I called him. I said, see, I'm working with this group of students and they need information on this. Are you willing to help? He said, why not? I set up a Zoom meeting and they went through everything with him on Zoom. Everything. They were asking him questions, the design, how they were going to do the design, what the byproducts were going to be, what the chemical reactions were going to look like. Everything they wanted, they were able to get. They were in South Africa, he was in Nigeria. He was on Zoom. That's technology used for collaboration. At the end of the day, their team was the team that won. In fact, their team was the only team that had an external person collaborate with them. Maybe that's why they won, because he gave them realistic figures when it comes to budgeting, because they had to do a budget. Because it was like, you're setting up a business where you're transforming waste to wealth. You had to do a feasibility study. He gave them realistic figures on how much you charge labor per day, how many workers you would need. That was technology. So what am I saying? That's just the first stage of collaboration. People, put them in group and they work together. You're just at 25% of collaboration. So let's now look at what the yes and no of collaboration is. Peers of students give each other feedback. Yes, they are in peers. They are giving each other feedback. They are working together. But students do their work alone. It's not working together. A whole class discussion. For example, I'm having a whole class discussion with you right now. This cannot be termed as collaboration. If I put you in groups and assign you work to do, then we can now say we have started collaboration. A student use Skype or even Microsoft Teams to interview a student in another town to get information to help them with something they are doing. Yes, it's collaboration. Or they use OneNote to share their stories, make a draft, and give each other feedback. Yes, it's collaboration. That's just 25% of collaboration. So if you're doing that, sometimes we do it and we say, I exhibit, my children work in groups, but they work in groups. It doesn't mean that they have collaborated effectively. That's just 25% of collaboration. Now, the next one is shared responsibility. So as much as children are put in groups, do they share the responsibility of the tasks they are supposed to do equally among themselves? So, for example, we want to do something about the Igbo culture presentation, or the Yoruba culture, or the Hausa culture for Cultural Day. And we have put the students in different groups to represent the different cultures. In the group where they are, they can decide that student A, you're going to do a research on the food the Igbo people eat. Student B, your own research is going to be on their attire. Student C, your research might be on their marriage rights. Student D, your own research might be on their kind of music or dance. They have shared responsibility. Everybody now has something they have to do. So students are sharing responsibility when they are working in peers or groups to develop a common product. What is our common product? We want to do cultural representation of the Igbo people. But that cultural because when you say cultural representation of the Igbo people, it could be you would have to talk about different things about them. So as much as we're doing this, we have looked at, so even in your subjects, for example, I want to teach on factors of production. They are, if I'm not forgetting, the last time I did economics was how many years ago? But I think there are 4 factors of production. Economics teacher, help me out. Am I correct? Economics teacher.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, all I want to do on types of soil. There are different types of soil. So I've given them the task. Today class is on types of soil. And I've put them in group. And I said each group is going to make presentation on types of soil. Within their group, they can decide to share. You are going to talk about clay soil. You are going to talk about loamy. What do you know about clay soil? What do you know about loamy soil? What do you know about? They share it. Oh, we are having economics class, and our teacher has put us in group and said, before we start the class, the next class is on factors of production. And they have told us, go and you two, you are in group 1, you are in group 2, you are in group 3, and you're all going to do presentation at the beginning of the class on the factors of production. They cannot decide, please help us research on land. You help us research on what's the other factor of production now? I think, is it wages?
Labor.
Labor. So you say you are researching on labor. You are researching on, they share it among themselves. That is shared responsibility. Meaning that everybody has something to do. Their final product would be to make a presentation on the factors of production. However, they have shared the responsibility of how they will go about it. That is what we are saying, because these children you're teaching today, no matter what they end up studying, when they get to the workplace, they need to understand what collaboration is. They need to understand what teamwork is. They need to understand what it means to take responsibility. Not that even us as educators, this thing I'm saying is not just because we want to teach our children, but it's also important for us. A lot of times the challenge we have is that when they assign, let's say we are saying we want to do end of year party, and that end of year party, they will now say somebody should be in charge of the drinks, somebody should be in charge of the maybe the MC that will come for the program, somebody should be in charge of gifts. If we don't share it, how is it going to work? Our common goal is to have a successful end of year party, but we have shared responsibility. Now, the sharing responsibility and doing all that, is it because you're an economics teacher that you are doing that? It's a life skill that you have. It has nothing to do with your profession. And that's why we're saying, irrespective of anything, we should start equipping our children with this life skill. And they start from our classroom. You will be shocked that a child will go somewhere in the future and said, thank God for when Mr. So-and-so used to make us do this, do this. That is where I learned this from, and it is helping me today. So very important. So shared responsibility. Students conduct a lab experiment together. Students had joint responsibility for carrying out the lab experiments. Not that one person did the whole work. The others didn't do anything. They didn't try to help out in any way. Maybe when they were carrying out the experiment, the only thing the person did was take the, okay, now you want to put salt, take salt, put. Why don't, instead of saying take salt, put, you go and put the salt yourself. That means you have contributed well, not that you are just helping. So everybody has a mutual role to play. in your classroom, when you give them work to do, don't overlook. We are not saying do it for them, but ensure you need to put, I'll give you an example. What I do is, when I assign them tasks to do, when they are making the presentation, I will ask them different questions on the different aspects. If you are not able to answer, it means you didn't take parts. You were just observing when the others were working. And I won't grade you the same mark I will grade the others in that group. Because there are some people, so we need to make them understand what it means to take responsibility. This is also another example of shared responsibility. Say, a team of 4 students design a website about an author. So they are designing a website about an author. Let's say Chinua Achebe. Each of the students contributed the text and visuals related to the different books the author had written. That means everybody had something. So we're looking at, like I said, if we say Chinua Achebe, or we look at the Wole Soyinka, now you can say, okay, you are going to do your own is on this book that Wole Soyinka wrote. You are on the second book, you are on the third book. Not that out of the team of 4, only 2 students divided the work, did the whole work. The others were just there, observers. We call them encouragers. Well done. It happens to us even as educators. Sometimes when they put us in a committee to do something, you find out that maybe 2 people will carry the whole work and do it. The other 2 will just be encouragers. Well done. They only ask, how far have you gone? Okay, you have completed this, but they are not asking you, bring it, let me help it out with. And we're saying, let's begin to train our children to have a different mindset where they understand the need to take responsibility. Now, the next one is substantive decision. So yes, students have been put in groups, good. While they were in the group, the students sat down and said, student A, research on labor. Student B, research on land. Student C, research on, is it capital? That is the other one, and so on. And that has been done. They have shared. The next stage is now substantive decision. Because that substantive decision is very important, where everybody now sits down and agrees. This thing that they said we should do we present it as a PowerPoint presentation? Or do we do a video recording of us talking about the different aspects? They decide how they want their content to be. They decide the process. They decide what their final product will be. You know, it's so funny sometimes when we assign tasks and work to children to do, and we end up doing the work for them. Because we end up being the one to say, oh, you know what? You have to do it like this. You have to do it like this. You have to make the presentation. Please let children take ownership of their work. I would encourage you to sign up for that thing. And I pray your student, because they're going to give them, they're going to assess them. And I pray that one of your students speaks. Let them have the opportunity to go for that program in South Africa. They'll come back with a different mindset. Let them take full responsibility. Let them take full responsibility. It was amazing. It was a 2 weeks program. And sometimes I look at it, especially for those of you in the secondary school, we always have this mindset, they are children, they can't do anything. I was looking at 14, 15-year-olds coming up with a full, complete project with feasibility study, with facts and figures within 2 weeks. And I was mind blown. So let them make decision. Let them make decision, not that you are the one deciding, no, you must use color purple when you are doing it. If they say the color they want to use is blue, leave them alone. Because the truth is, when children make decisions, they take ownership. They buy into it. Have you ever wondered when you're doing even this like end of year program And children are the one that suggest how they want to, the kind of cultural dance. And do you always notice that the commitment is different from when you are the one suggesting it to them? How many of you have noticed that? That's the truth. It's a normal thing. People take ownership of what they feel is their own idea and their own thing, more than what they feel is that the teacher is the one asking us to do it. So, substantive decisions. Students devised a plan for creating their music video for International Children's Day. So they want to have International Children's Day, and they want to make a music video to celebrate International Children's Day. Students discuss who will direct, not that the teacher decided who will direct, who will shoot, who is going to edit the video, what technology they are going to use. The reality is, even right now, they are more technologically inclined than we are. There are things they know about technology that we don't know. I remember I wanted to make a TikTok video. It was my student that taught me how. I didn't know how, because I don't have the time. We are very busy. There are a lot of things that navigate on the internet that we don't know, but these children, they have all the time in their hands, so they know. Let them take responsibility. So they are deciding things that are fundamental to their projects. Maybe ICT teacher, you have said they should create an app, and they're the ones deciding how they want their app to look like. Not that you, the ICT teacher, you have laid down rules and regulation, instruction, step 1, step 2, step 3. Please, you have taught them. You have empowered them with knowledge. Let them use that knowledge. Why are you teaching them in the classroom if they are not going to use that knowledge? Very important. So it says students discuss which capital city to choose for their project based on what they knew of the political systems of each country. The students negotiated their idea. They decided. It wasn't the teacher that was telling them, oh, let's use this. They decided. So, for example, like I said, you could give them a team on tourism. Let them decide which states they want to work with. Somebody can say their own tourist attraction sites, they want to use Zolumo Rock, leave them. Another person can say they want to work on Obudu Cattle Ranch, leave them. Another person can say they want to work on Yankari Reserve, leave them. Not that you will say Group A, you will work on this, Group B, Group C, Group D. Give them an opportunity of choice so that you're sure that the knowledge you are impacting on them, they are able to use it. So the last part of collaboration is where we now say interdependent work. So yes, I put students to work in a group. At the end of the task, do they submit one single project for the group, or everybody is submitting their own individual project? If they are submitting their own individual project, even if they worked together, you can't term it as 100% collaboration, because there are no guarantees that when they are submitting their individual project, that person did not look at it again and said, even though we agreed that we should paint it pink. I'm not a pink person, so I'm painting my final product blue. But if they submit one work, you're more sure that it is everybody's idea that is put there. And it is also interdependent if there's evidence that everybody contributed. There's evidence. And that's why I said we teach children these things. A lot of things that cause conflict between us and adults, even in our workspace, is because some people feel nobody considers my idea. When they say, I beg, leave. They have the people that they listen to. Whatever I say, they will still not take it. They know the people that they listen to. So we need to start, we need to change what the future of work, because the future of work is different. And so we need to prepare our children for that future of work. And it starts from our classroom. So how are we empowering our children? And I'll give you an example. See, the children of today don't want to be taught the way you want to teach them. They want to be taught the way they want to be taught. So you need to know how they want to be taught. Let me use an example. I have this online student, and that's why I'm saying a lot of you, please embrace technology. Nigerians are jackpine, and they get to the UK. 1 hour lesson per hour in the UK is £50. Some of them cannot pay. So they are coming back home to look for Nigeria. So instead of paying £50, you can say, okay, I'll do £40 or I'll do £30. They will pay you because they are not ready to pay the UK people the £50. And that's why the opportunities are coming for us. And we need to leverage on it and take advantage. So I have this students I teach online, Ebube. I've taught her for about a month. I was almost giving up on teaching her. I was almost giving up on teaching her because she won't participate. She won't show any commitment. And you know, it's online. I'm not seeing her, I'm not there with her. If you are there with the child, you can know how to pull the child and get the child to be involved in the class. But this is online. So I was almost feeling frustrated. I didn't know what to do anymore. I was like, what kind of wahala is this? And one day I just said, let me try using game. So that was about 2 weeks ago. I got into the class and I said, greeted her, how are you? How are you preparing for the new year? Blah, blah, blah. We talked. And then I said, and I asked her, I said, have you ever heard of Blue Kids? She said, oh, we played. In fact, as I mentioned that, have you ever heard of Blue Kids? She said, oh, we play it in my school. I said, wow. We first used the first 10 minutes of the class to discuss Blue Kids. Our class is 1 hour, 30 minutes. We used the first 10 minutes to discuss Blue Kids. And after that, I said, you know what? I'm going to set up a Blue Kids. In our next class, we'll play a Blue Kid game together. And I said, because there is no students, you're the only student I'm teaching. So it's going to be me against you playing the game. Do you know that for the first time, when I mean for the first time in all the years I have been teaching this girl showed commitment. From the beginning of my class to the end of my class, the girl participated. I am not joking. And not just that she participated, after my class, because I've been having conversation with the mom and I was telling the mom that I don't know what I want to do again about your daughter. So the mom sent me a message. I'm going to read the message out to you. She said, Mrs. Olawale said today's class was good. This is the girl now telling her mom. They said, this has been my best math class. I really enjoyed it. Mrs. Olawale says, I will play a game next week. And then the mom responded, I said, thank you so much, Mrs. Olawale. She's so happy about the class. What am I saying? If I did not know how to leverage technology and how to engage her, I'll lose that client. Because we're almost at the verge of losing. I was almost at the verge of losing that client, and that would mean me losing money. So that's why I said the things, the children you have now, they don't, you see that conventional class where you stand on the board and you're talking, they're not following you. This is their generation, they're not like that. It doesn't work for them. That's the truth. It's not working. Sometimes when you say children are misbehaving, it's because they don't feel engaged. My daughter told me to my face, she said, Mommy, I don't feel like going to school. I said, why? She said, school is boring. Money, for all the money I'm paying. You are telling me school is boring. What do you mean by school is? When I was going to school, I don't know if I knew I had that vocabulary in my dictionary, boring. I can never remember any day where I said school was boring. And I was like, what do you mean school is boring? She said, Mommy, it's the same thing. The teacher will just come, talk. Mommy, can you please help me talk to my teacher to play video once in a while in the class? Now, I think I was the one that created the problem, because most times at home, I look for videos on topics she's doing, and I'll play the video for her and give her work to do. I didn't know she had gotten, so for her, school is boring. We need to think of how to engage. So sometimes involve effective collaboration in your classroom so that you get your students. Individual accountability and group accountability works for interdependent work. When we say individual accountability, every student's role must be visible in that project, in that work. Every student must have a task that they have completed. When the presentation is being made, student A should feel confident that this part I worked on this part. Student B should feel confident that I worked on the second part, I worked on the third part. Not that only 2 people worked on it and the others were just there. They have nothing to contribute. And the entire group had worked together and negotiated the whole process. That's part of why we have challenge in Nigeria. Because the Igbos will say they are not carrying me along. The Yorubas will say they are not carrying me along. The Hausas will say they are not carrying me along. Nobody is feeling, everybody feels cheated. And that's why we're all fighting ourselves. But if we had been taught to collaborate, to work together, to negotiate ideas, let everyone's idea be imputed. So we need to teach our children that. Like I said, you're not preparing them for today. You're preparing them for the next 10 years. Let me ask you a question. The children you have in your classroom today, do you know the kind of jobs they are going to be doing in the next 5 years? Because in the next 5 years, some of your children will be in the job market. For those of you in the primary school, in the next 10, 15 years, they are in the job market. What kind of job are they going to be doing? How are you preparing them for that job? The kind of jobs we had 10 years ago, is it the kind of jobs we have today? Who knew that content marketing would be a big deal and make people millionaires? We need to prepare them ahead. So group members each set a different internal systems of frog. Learners then work together to dissect a frog and write a lab report about the dissection. So they all work together. For a case where only 2 people. Or learners each create a web page about the history, culture, attractions for accommodation of their local area that will be linked to their class homepage. Or they do it, but they don't link it to anything. So there's no final product. They worked on it, but there's no final product to show what they have done. We can't term it as collaboration. Any questions, please, before we go into the rubrics? Any questions, please, before we go into the rubrics? Any questions, please? Okay, none. So here's what we call the collaboration rubric, because your questions are going to be based on the rubric. So the rubric says students are not working together in pairs or groups. Means you have a whole class. So if you have a question when you're writing your assessment and it says students engage in a whole class discussion, that's level 1. There's no form of collaboration. And please, there's nothing like level 0. So I think for one reason, they use the idea that you don't grade people 0. So where you would have said there's no collaboration at all, they grade it 1 mark. So that's level 1. No collaboration at all. It could be a whole class discussion, so 1 mark. Now, 2, students are working together, but they are not sharing responsibility fairly. Yes, they've been put in a group. You can see that they've been assigned groups, So I can decide now that you people should work in a group. But you have not shared responsibility. Number 3, students are sharing responsibility fairly, but they are not making any substantive decision together. They have not made any substantive decision together. Number 4, students are sharing responsibility fairly, and then they are making substantive decision. Substantive decision means they've decided how they want their presentation to go. They've decided if they wanted to add images or just do a write-up for their presentation or whatever they have to do. So I'm going to give you guys an assignment on this. And I'm looking, hoping you can give me what I want. Now, students are sharing responsibility fairly, and they are making substantive decisions together, and their product is interdependent. That is level 5. So Mr. Albert, because I'm going to assign them something for collaboration. Mr. Albert. Mr. Albert. Oh, okay, Mr. Albert, please, can the head of school do me a favor of making them, they need to group them. I don't know how they're going to group them because I'm not there, so I'm not going to be doing the grouping. So maybe the head of school might need to group them, and their task is to come out with a meal plan. So it could just serve as something safe. It could serve as something they can even use in their school if they do lunch or breakfast or something for their children. They need to work in a group to come up with a meal plan, a 5-day meal plan that must reflect everything about a balanced diet. A 5-day meal plan that reflects everything about a balanced diet. So I'm going to see which group has actually effectively shown collaboration in their tasks. Are we clear?
Yes, yes.
So I hope they listened to what I said about the different stages of collaboration, because I will know if you went through the different stages when I ask you questions on how you came up with your presentation. So that would also help you guide on what you're to do in classroom with your children. So this is a flow diagram. So the ICT teachers, people who are in ICT and science love a lot of flow diagrams, while people in language like a lot of writing. So for those in science, flow diagram works better. So this is a flow diagram on the rubrics. The other one was a write-up on the rubrics. Now the next one, which is the last one we'll look at for today because of time. Tomorrow we'll see how well it will go. Is skilled communication. And for skilled communication, we have what we call, just like the other one, we have the different stages, which is the extended and multimodal. And then we have the requiring supporting evidence, meaning you cannot say you are communicating. Can't tell me you're bringing things to me without evidence, facts, and figures. Why? Just like I've said, create a meal plan. So if you're going to tell me that you have decided to put beans and bread, Yoruba people love beans and bread. I don't know if they do it a lot in Abuja there, but in Lagos, they can eat beans and bread for Africa. So I decided to put beans and bread on the meal plan. Why? Why? What's the evidence? What evidence do you have? Did you do a research that said beans and bread? Because I said it has to be a balanced diet. Did you do a research that has shown that beans and bread combination contains maybe 99% of the different classes of food? So it's a good meal. So we need to have, so that's like supporting evidence. So if I say I'm doing beans and bread, I'm saying beans and bread because the composition of my beans and bread can reflect maybe 70% or 80% statistically of a balanced diet. So extended communication. Extended communication is required when students must produce communication that represents a set of connected ideas, not a single thought. When we say a set of connected ideas, their work should be able to, rather than just a one-word thing. They should be able to do a paragraph rather than just a single sentence. You're giving children presentations to do, and all they can come up with is a sentence. They can't even write a detailed paragraph on it. That's not extended communication, because they're not producing any facts that the person can work with. They could use a video, they could do a podcast. And these are the few things I want you to bring into your classroom. Please let your children do podcasts. Train them on podcasts. English teachers, please. And I'm not just saying English teacher, I'm using the word English teachers because for those of you who don't know how to do podcasts, let the English teacher show you how to. And you're doing it with your children. You see how engaged your children would be. Children are tired of the stereotype, regular way of doing things. The communication must be students' own work, not that they copy it. When you ask students to write research paper, or you give them a project or a topic to work on, they should not go and photocopy from internet and give you. They should be able to think and add to it. So there should be evidence that it is their own work, not that they copied from somewhere. They can extract from 5 different sources and put it together. It's better than they go to one source and copy everything and submit. It doesn't make sense. So a student wrote a paragraph in response to an essay prompt. I'm a science teacher. I asked my student to write on global warming. What do they know about greenhouse effect? What did they know about global warming? What did they know in primary school? I'm sure in primary school you teach, at least I believe that at primary 3, you should be able to do things like clean water, sources of water. And you ask your children they should be able to write something important. The different sources of water are X, Y, Z, and they can be found in X, Y, Z. So sources of water, very important. So not that they just write one line and submit. You should see something that shows that children have actually thought through the question. The next one we talk about is multimodal. Communication is multimodal when it includes more than one type of communication mode or two. Something that brings more light to the information. More light helps them understand better. For example, I'm teaching about the heart. Apart from the explanation and write-up I have about the heart, I should be able to also have image of the heart. Because an image of the heart alongside the write-up helps the children understand it better. Or I am showing a video that shows how the heart functions. Children will understand better than just a write-up they are reading. So that's what we're saying. And the truth is, if you are not doing it in the classroom, you can't demand them to do it too. You can't demand. See, when I started using technology, I was working in a school, we did not have interactive board. It was just normal whiteboard in the classroom. We had only one projector in the principal's office. I used to go very early in the morning. I'll go and meet the principal. They were not even using the projector for anything. I will sign for the projector. I will carry it. My teachers used to laugh at me then and say, what is your problem? But by the time they started seeing how my students were doing very well, my students were engaged. After school, this student would call me, please, auntie, let's do extra. They were begging me, let me teach them. They wanted to pass very well. All of them started dragging the projector with me. And I used to set that projector, I'll connect my laptop, project it very well, and show my children video. Interest, maths, everybody knows maths is not an easy subject to teach children. They're not interested. But I have been 100% successful at it. I keep saying it every day. God has given me that grace and wisdom. There's no child that has sat in my class and left my class and said, I hate maths. Never. Because I do all these things. Find a way to engage them. Like I said, it's the generation we are in now. Now, a team of students created a radio advertisement for their new invention, choosing to use an audio rather than print medium, because they thought it would be most compelling if they use sound. That's what we're saying. It should be something that is more compelling. It should be something that helps them understand better. I can bring a model of what I'm trying to teach them in the class. Let it not just be that I am narrating, telling story. I can do a model of what I want and show it to them. It adds more value to what I'm teaching. It helps them understand it better. That is what we're talking about when it comes to multimodal. More like what we say, two-way communication. Two-way communication, not one way. The other one is requires supporting evidence. What do we mean by supporting evidence? It's just like the tax I've given to you now. And I've said, when I ask you, don't just come and tell me that you put bread and beans together because you feel that it is sweet. There should be facts and figures to show why bread and beans are together. I don't know if this is clear with us. You should be able to. So those are the things you ask your students for. We all know that even when you go to the university, plagiarism is a big offense. Students are expected to write paper presentation with evidence. Why are we not teaching them at this stage? We should be able to teach them at this stage to do that. When we even ask them to make presentations, there should be backup for whatever presentation they're doing. So here it says a 15-year-old student wrote an essay about why global warming is a problem. The essay states a claim about global warming and provides evidence from scientific articles. So they were not just talking off their head. They had facts. If I want to talk about that, the importance of living in peace, I should be able to give evidence of, oh, this community and this community had crisis because they couldn't resolve issue. We're talking about conflict resolution. What's the important? They should be able to come up with facts and say, community A and community B had a fact in 2022, and because they couldn't resolve, it led into a conflict, and in that community, they lost 300 people. Facts and figures. Evidence. Facts and figures. Whatever you're asking them to do, let them do detailed research. Where's Mr. Albert? Just a minute. Mr. Albert is calling. So they should do detailed research. Sorry. Okay. Now, the other part of skilled communication is communication designed for a particular audience. And when we say communication is designed for a particular audience, what we mean by this is that I'm rounding up now. I just want to finish this. You cannot do a presentation for primary school the same way you do for secondary school. So if you're doing something for secondary school, you should have a template for that, knowing the age grade and the kind of children you have. I will give an example. If I want to talk about corruption, the example I will use for primary school is not the same I will use for secondary school. That is communication designed for a particular audience. If I want to talk on integrity, what I will use in primary school is not what I will use in secondary school. Communication designed for a particular audience. Even in maths, You do area of plane shapes in secondary school. You do the same area of plane shapes in primary school. The formulas are the same, but the way you teach it in primary level is different from the way you teach it in secondary. You teach ratio in primary, you teach ratio in secondary, but the way you teach ratio in primary is different from the way you teach ratio in secondary. That's what we say communication designed for a particular audience. I am going to teach water filtration. How we teach it in primary is different from how we teach it in secondary. I am going to teach cleaning agents. How we teach it in my home economics class in primary is different from how we teach it in my home economics class in secondary. Why? They're different age groups. So that is communication designed for a particular audience. So it says students create video about their school to welcome incoming students. The video includes a friendly host who provides key information about the school and shows images from life at the school. The no is the video was not even engaging. So you need to know the audience and you have to make sure that it is appealing to that audience. And the same thing with you as educators. The children you are teaching, do you know them? And do you know what works for them? Do you know how they can understand that your subject better? And are you tailoring it in that way? So this is the write-up. It says the communication is not, if it is not extended, it is not multimodal, level 1. Level 2 is it's extended, is multimodal. Level 3 means you now have a supporting evidence or it is designed for a particular audience. You can only grade it as full-blown communication where you can see extended and multimodal, you can see supporting evidence, and you can see that it is designed for a particular audience. So I don't know if we have any questions before we call it a day. Any question? Okay, so please ensure you work on my assignment. We're going to start with that tomorrow. And I would like to, Mr. Albert, if before the class, I would like to know how many groups. You can just call them group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. If they want to give themselves names as a group, maybe diamond, pearl, gold, silver, you're fine. You're welcome, but please send me the information ahead before the class time. So I'll see you all tomorrow. And I'm hoping that by the end of this training, we're all international educators and making money in dollars and pounds. All the best, everyone. And see you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.